Hello, hello, hello. Good evening.
Hey,
Good
hey,
evening.
How are you
How's
guys
it
doing tonight?
wonderful.
going?
How are you
I
guys
love
feeling
when
about
Tim says that.
how you guys feeling about having no masks on? I don't know how it is in Edmonton. I wouldn't really.
Oh, I don't know. Where I work, I got to wear masks every day anyways, so and I
Okay.
think isn't there still like a city mandate, like the city of Edmonton?
I haven't been in the city in a store since
Oh.
it started, so because in
Well,
St.
today
Albert
is only
Morinville,
the second, but
yeah.
sorry,
In
you were
St. Albert
saying.
no, St. Albert Morinville, no one's wearing a mask. So
Huh.
yeah.
Okay. They're like, let's get some fresh air.
Right?
I haven't actually yesterday, losing track of days here. Yesterday was the first. So
Yeah.
I was at the mall yesterday after work and people were wearing masks. But again, I think they still I think most businesses are still imposing them. I don't know. I don't know. I'll keep an eye the rest of the week. It's only second day, but I haven't really heard anyone mention it or say like, yeah, I'm glad masks are gone or anything like that. So,
Right.
yeah.
How's
I
it with
still
you,
rock
Tim?
my mask. I'm just not gonna turn around and go home if I don't have one now. But
Okay.
Right.
you know what I mean. But I'm gonna still wear
Yeah.
my mask. My kids, I still encourage them to wear a mask.
Right.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
The thing is too is that it's also still winter here. And to be honest with you, the mask does help if you're outside or if you're commuting outside on those super cold days. Like sometimes it is nice to have something like covering your face. So that
Hmm.
is the plus side to the masks. Okay, yeah. Greg just confirmed City of Edmonton still has a mandate.
Yes,
So
Greg, there are people out here in Morinville.
also known as Danny. And June also said yes, there is still a City of Edmonton mandate. So maybe that's why we haven't really noticed because yeah,
Hmm.
it's still going on out here. Strong and heavy. So
That's
yeah.
interesting. Interesting.
Mhm.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll get started. Hello and welcome to Let's Be Real. I almost said my other podcast there at a moment. Every week we have new followers and we welcome you. Make sure you share the live. Because on here we talk about art, small businesses, relationships, current events, issues. Relationships seem to be the hot topic on this page. So the show is about you, about us. Let's get ready to be real. I forgot to introduce us. Sorry. So this is Kiki,
You
Tim.
know who we are by now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my goodness.
So what are you guys thinking about the I don't even know if you want to say a war between Russia and Ukraine. I don't even know what's going on. Honestly, I just it's yeah.
To be honest, personally, I'm just trying not to tap into it as
Right.
much. Like obviously you're on your phones a lot or you're on social media and stuff like that. You are obviously going to see things. Um but I'm just trying to limit the amount of like I want to stay informed and I guess I
Yeah.
am for the most
Mm.
part, but I am also limiting how much of that I wouldn't say content, but news about Russia and
That's
Ukraine.
fair.
Um and I don't want that to sound selfish. I know, there's a lot of people, whose lives are being uprooted and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
I think from a mental standpoint, and just, a lot of things that we'd kind of had to witness directly and indirectly in the last 2 years, I'm kind of just yeah, limiting how much of that I'm seeing. I do think one of the latest updates I saw is that Russia has invaded one of the larger cities in Ukraine. I can't
Mhm.
remember the name of that particular city. I think it starts with a K. If
Yeah.
someone
Kiev,
can, pardon me.
Kiev.
Yes. So,
Mhm.
but yeah. So honestly, yeah, that's my take on that at this present time. When it first started, I was like, oh my gosh, watching the videos and,
Mhm.
reading articles and stuff like that. And it's not that I forgot, because I know that's typically what we see happen when something first
Yeah.
happens. Everyone's talking about it, and you know, and then they genuinely forget about it. I haven't forgotten about it, but I'm also just kind of taking a step back, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So what about you guys?
Well, I'm sorry, and like Russia has been warning Kiev people to flee that town because they're eventually going to come. That's the capital city. But
Mhm.
the occupation, let's say, would be Kherson, and there's fighting in Kharkiv. I can't really say some of these names, and there's a bunch of different. I can't say some of them, but in any case,
Mhm.
um, uh, it's it's interesting on a bunch of levels, and it's kind of inevitable that this happened. Like, it's been going on for a long time. Um, I can't help but have like other kinds of feelings about it. And for me, I kind of double down on looking up information about some of the other wars that kind of get ignored
Pushed
globally.
aside. Yeah.
Um, and I guess, and that's not necessarily the best way to go. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
imagine, and they someone's talking about women's issues, and then guys start piping in like, well, men have issues too. That's not the time, right?
Yeah.
If you were going to be concerned about something, you should be concerned about it. But at the same time, it's funny just to watch how much attention it gets. Like, literally, that the attention has color, but
Mhm.
um, it's sad, it's unfortunate, but it is very human. Um,
Mhm.
like the thirst for power and sphere of influence. War is very um, yeah, it's very normal. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
when it comes to time, it's been a blip of time since there's been a major war. It's a major world war, but these kind of wars between different pieces of land, they say this isn't new in human history. It's not new at all. So yeah. Why do people care so much about Ukraine? What's so special about that piece of land, or that spit of land? They're one of the largest exporters, I think, of grain.
I.
It's just one of those pieces. It's like, imagine, like, they are Red Deer in the middle of Calgary, and in the middle of Calgary and Edmonton, right?
Mhm.
Um, actually, I just found out that the name Ukraine literally means borderland, and there is a lot of ports to the south.
Right.
When you start controlling ports, you start controlling money, and like the same reason why the Caribbean and all these other places were colonized is because of, one of the reasons was exports, and you bring people there and you make them work, right? And
Mhm.
so Russia just wants it, right? And there are people there that are for Russia, but there's a lot of people who are not. And Russia's just kind of wanted to be, or the Ukraine generally, some of their leaders have wanted to be on their own, and some wanted to link up with NATO, and some were Russian friendly. So there was always
Yeah.
just this headbutting, and basically since 2014, there has been issues, there has been attacks, but this one is a major one,
Right.
right? And so the Ukraine has had levels of corruption and things like that, in which and they haven't been able to, or they've wanted to join NATO, but NATO wanted them to make certain changes, and I guess they didn't. But now they want the help of the rest of the world to fight against this big bully.
Yeah.
There's some schools of thought that think that the Ukraine should surrender. You know, like if you don't want people to die, if you care about your people, just surrender. But you know, like that surrender, that's a nasty word, right?
Yeah.
One thing that I find interesting, again, about the war, this current situation, is Anonymous and their role in it, especially over the last, I don't know, let's say 48 to 72 hours. They've hacked into a lot of major, or have claimed to have hacked into a lot of major Russian websites. At one point, I saw an article stating it was over 300. Now I'm seeing it's over 1,500. The latest one that I saw was they claimed that it breached the control center of the Russian State Space Corporation and cut off the agency's control over its spy satellites as part of their ongoing cyber offense against the Russian government as they target the Ukraine. So, yeah, I find that quite interesting. I'm always kind of, I don't know, that usually kind of sparks my interest, the way they're
Right.
able to tap in and do those sort of things. In this day and age, I think that's very powerful, what they do, that particular group, because everything nowadays, is linked to the cyber world.
Yep.
And I think, if they keep hitting Russia in that sense where it hurts, eventually, I think that might actually give more of a push to making the Russians kind of think about what they're doing in the Ukraine. I think it'll definitely come from an economic standpoint, with certain sanctions and stuff, and definitely the hit that they're taking in the cyber world.
Yeah.
More so
Okay.
than actual, like, fighting, like, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So,
No, it makes sense.
like, it's
I don't know if you guys saw,
modern
but
warfare. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw this on social media and in the news, that some of the Ukrainian computer specialists that have helped Russia build some tech or stuff like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the charging ports that they have for the electric cars in Russia, the Ukrainian computer specialists hacked into that and put like little subliminal little quotes or little things in their little charging port. So when you charge your car, it'll say, like, I don't even want to say it online because it's kind of, I don't want to get this taken down. But they have a few things that they have said in their charging ports just to show that they can hack into any computer system that is in Russia.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Did you guys hear about the sailor who tried to sink that yacht, like some big Russian yacht? Apparently, I think it's the sailor. He's been a sailor for that particular yacht for like 10 years. He's Ukrainian. And they said that he tried to sink it at one of the ports, the sailor or the captain.
Interesting.
Yeah, I found that quite interesting. I'm just trying to pull it up here. I came across it, I think, yesterday. Okay, yeah. A Ukrainian sailor has admitted trying to sink a yacht owned by the head of a Russian state arms firm in retaliation for the invasion of Ukraine. And Greg said he's an engineer. There we go. It was docked in Spain when the mechanic, opened valves in its engine room. Yeah, that's what I saw. Yeah. He was arrested by civil guard officers on Saturday and later released on bail. He told the judge that he regretted nothing and would do it again. The man said he tried to scuttle the yacht after watching news reports from Ukraine on the television. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's interesting little stories popping up in the last few days here.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That
But,
and gas
another thing,
prices going up.
there is a significant number of Ukrainian descent Albertans.
Yes.
There's a significant number
Yeah.
here. So again, it's going to be on our local media, as
Mhm.
you know, there was a lot of people.
Yeah, we do have a big Ukrainian population here, for sure.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, like you go in like places like Vegreville and some of these towns that have been, you know, is it Vegreville is the sausage or the no, that's I don't know which one was it, but there, I think Vegreville is the egg.
The egg, yeah.
That has the egg, and there's some that have the sausage and all these things that they have that are like traditional Ukrainian things.
Mhm.
If you even think back to going to school here, Danielle, you probably remember, you know, even the little, those ornaments that have the little woman inside of each one, and you open it up and then you take like one
Isn't
out.
that Russian?
I think that's Ukrainian. Yeah, I'm pretty
I
sure.
honestly thought it was called the Russian doll.
But and again, like they are neighbors, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's,
true.
you know,
I've always been kind of fascinated with Ukrainian dancing.
Hmm.
but if you know, like growing up here, there's a lot of that we, you know what I mean? Like you didn't hear anything about you unless when I don't know when you were how old you were when you found out Africa is a like all the different countries and
Continent.
all the different names. No one taught you that, but you sure knew about the Ukraine
Yeah.
coming up here in Alberta. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna hear a lot about that.
Hmm.
And even what I was saying before, like the reason we hear so much about this, and we wonder why it's not necessarily fair, but it's just another instance of just familiarity bias. Like
Hmm.
people care about what they care about.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like basically they care about what they care about, what matters to them, right? So
Hmm.
sometimes this isn't always racism. It's it's a numbers game. Doesn't make it right, but you know it's a numbers game. You know
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that you know, and we're talking about like just the amount of black people that are here, and how many and all the different places they come from. You know, when we get representation, it's done intentionally.
Yeah.
Because you know, numbers wise, like if you're in a room with 50 people, how many, you know, if there's anything more than 2 or 3 black people there, that's some serious representation when it comes to the numbers when you're in Alberta, you know,
Hmm.
or if you're in Saskatchewan. It's different in Toronto, you know. So in any case,
Yeah.
Yeah. I just put up on the screen what Greg just said, and I kind of wanted to touch on that.
mhm.
Um, there are videos of the Black community in Ukraine getting denied going on trains and boats and buses just to escape, and they're getting left. Like there's a bunch of videos where the Black community is getting left on like train platforms because they're not allowed on the train. So a little bit of what Greg said. Um, the Black community is facing racism just to escape the war. Even in war, a community gets dumped on.
Hmm.
Which
You know,
doesn't surprise me. And then we're
and
just
I
like,
was
what on earth are you doing in the Ukraine? But again,
I was
there are
gonna
black people all over the place,
Hmm.
all over the place. You
yeah,
know,
I was gonna say, you know, I did see a few different clips going around, you know, people being denied, you know, getting on certain methods of transportation to leave certain areas of the Ukraine and stuff like that. And initially, you know, when you look at something like that, it's upsetting. And you're like, why are they doing this? You know, like, you know, we all bleed the same, you know, like let them leave. But then I kind of took a step back, and then my mind starts going, and I'm trying to think, okay, okay, obviously one factor is racism, but then I'm like, is there anything else that comes into play with what they're doing? So I started kind of going through some comments just to see what people were saying and looking up a few different things. And something that I came across was that one of the issues is that some of these people, or these Black people who are trying to leave, are like refugees or asylum seekers. And
Right.
based on what they're saying, some of them aren't even allowed to cross the border because they're asylum seekers. So yes, they're there. Yes, they're in the Ukraine, but because they're refugees and stuff, they don't have the proper like documentation. They're not citizens from there, so they're not able to travel as freely as, you know, some of the actual citizens from the Ukraine.
Right.
And I do think that's something that does need to be voiced, because obviously you see a video, you see a caption, and it's like they're not letting these people leave. And you would think, you know, that something like war, that would kind of be like one of the ultimate things that, you know, be like, hey, we just want to get these people to safety. But it clearly doesn't work like that, I guess. So yeah,
Yeah.
because a lot of these people aren't citizens and stuff, they're not able to freely move across certain borders, like the citizens. So but and I do believe there is like a racist, you know, factor to it as well. But that is one of the reasons too. I just wanted to put that out there. And
You
just
know,
like Tanya said, you would think war would shift that, but clearly it doesn't. They don't care.
my thing is that, like, sometimes can you tell someone's document status by looking at them? Do you know what I mean? Like, the
Right.
same way that, you know, that you wouldn't think that there's Black people that have been in Alberta for, you know, and families that have been here for over 100 years. That's
Right.
you know, that's not an assumption that one should make. And you know, it's a bad look. It doesn't
is.
cause me to be like, well, good for them, because you know what I mean. Like, I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
but at
Yeah.
the same
But
time, it's like, it just shows you how deeply rooted, some of the, even in, you're telling me, like, even in war times, you know what I mean, like,
yeah.
it's,
And that is upsetting. And again, I'm not saying that is something that I agree with. I'm just saying that's an excuse that
Yeah.
some people were using, or, you know, when
Yeah.
people were questioning that. So, but I do believe, obviously, that it has something to do with race. Look at when the pandemic first started in some of the Asian countries, the way that they started treating Black people. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's interesting, because think about it. Like, what if, you know, there was like a volcanic eruption, like the St.
Yeah.
Vincent and the Grenadines had a volcanic eruption, you know, sometime last year. What if they said, you know, all the nationals hop on the boat to neighboring islands, and, you know, white people or whoever else aren't citizens, or,
That's right.
you know, you
Yeah.
guys aren't allowed to get on the boat to leave the island, you know. But people don't really like, you know, putting themselves in other people's shoes in those sorts of situations. But, you know, if they were to do that, you know, then they'll be like, oh, why are they doing this? Why are they treating us like
Well,
this?
100%. Look at what
Yeah.
happened when you told a bunch of Canadians that they had to wear a mask, or they had to get a thing. Like, when they're in that position, it is absolutely mind blowing that anybody would ever, like, remember that, like, just like the story about, I told you guys about me telling that lady she didn't have the privileges to get in that. It's just like, boom, what are you talking about? My whole world is falling apart, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, welcome to like an afternoon being Black, like,
Exactly.
you know. So so definitely, there's, for the idea of war and for the idea of the loss of life, like, and the idea that, you know, you've got to go in and innocent people have to get killed just for whatever. It's just like, this is unfortunate, and it shows that, you know, we're still very base in our humanities, at least, you know, but some of this, like, some of the same people that are involved, you know, wouldn't piss on you to 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 extinguish a fire, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's an odd position to be in, to watch, because we're in an odd position, because the more we understand about history, and the more we look across on the other side of the world, and remember, some of these same places and they look at the conflicts in Africa, it's like, oh my God, why are these people still fighting? And it's like, yo, your cousin and them are doing the same thing. You know what I mean? And you have access to whatever, like, you know what I mean? And they're still doing the same. They're doing the same thing. So I seem to remember that when war breaks out in Africa, the wife are easy to give access to leave. Maybe these African nations should adopt the Ukrainian mindset when conflict arises.
You know what?
Imagine.
I don't mean to laugh, but that actually did cross my mind, because when I gave that St. Vincent example, my mind went to like Rwanda, you know, with the Tutsis and the Hutu, you know, when they were the UN was like getting like the Canadians and the Americans and the British out and stuff like that. And yeah, it's interesting.
And this is why we, like, it's like, I'm not knocking you down when I support Black. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, this is what I support Black, because I am not sure who else will. You know what I mean? If I know you personally, you know what I mean? If I know you personally, and you're of whatever else, and I know that you may support me, then sure. But for the most part, like, if I have a choice, I'm going to, because I know that, and we've seen it, like, there is this underlying, if it's like a genetic thing going on here. And I'm not sure, I'm not an expert, but like, when you look at it, it's like, can you not even see that there's humanity here? Like, that's a human. It's not, I'm darker skinned than you, but you know what? There's a heart, a brain, eyes, legs, blood. Like, come on, man.
I don't see that.
And we gotta, like, almost try to even be that obtuse. Like, we'd have to try, and it's not even obtuse, it's like, literally, you have to try, like, and even you do it, you know, at least some of us, it's like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I was a little too extreme, or if I was a little too paranoid, and you have to, but they have, like, that thought process, for so many, it's just not even, it's not there.
Yeah. That's for sure.
In any case.
Tim, you sent something to us in our little group chat. Do you want to, the wifey?
Let me go back and look. Remind me.
So what?
When the marriage being a piece of paper?
That, yes, and dating being wifey material.
There was something else I thought before that.
Well,
I don't know. I
don't
have access to it at the moment, so.
Whoa, don't be putting that on me. That sounds really.
Okay.
Tim said, "Yo, don't put me on blast."
No, for real. Like, you talking about white women, easy. But I did. No, there's the one I sent today. It says, "Y'all be talking about marriage is just a piece of paper until they put you in that man obituary as a special friend."
I did see that yesterday.
I put my daddy's girlfriend in there as his loyal companion, like she was a German Shepherd. I thought that was hilarious, and I kind of wanted to see what people think about that in regards to the legalities of being married versus just having like a long-term companion.
Mhm.
Like, as ladies, does that matter to you? Like, if you just had a long term, you guys are committed to one another, do you care about the title? Do you care about the actual formality of marriage? No,
Nope.
Kiki.
Yes and no, I guess. I feel like it depends on, again, how long you've been with that person,
Mhm.
what you guys have built together outside
Mm-hmm.
of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say, like, are we talking common law, or are we talking like y'all still live in separate places, but you guys are together? You've been together for like 2 decades or something, and then
Yeah, it could be either or.
and then
Like,
they pass away, or
I was thinking common law, honestly. That was my mindset.
I feel like a lot of it plays into that individual's family,
Mhm.
because who's coming for something at the end of the day when that person's long and gone? you know Maybe that person has children that they don't talk to, who
yeah.
haven't
Right.
spoken to for years, you
Right.
know but they're now 6 feet under, and then they're coming out of the woodworks, and they're like, yo, I want this, 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 and this. And you're like, but I've been with this person for 20 years.
Mm.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Or like a
Mhm.
parent, like, let's say that person passed away at a young age.
What happened there?
No idea.
Technical difficulties.
That
You
Yeah.
guys
was
can
so
still hear
weird.
me, right? You guys can
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then let's say it's a parent that were like, they have a mom and you guys never got along. Like, let's say the mom knows you guys have been together for years, but the mom doesn't like you or something. So when
Yeah.
that person unfortunately passes away, she's like, "Oh, this is mine now." Like, you
Mhm.
didn't have no ring on your finger and all that. So
Yeah.
I think that would be the biggest thing for me. Like, and I can't even say, "Oh yeah, you know the family and you guys got along," because death shows people's true colors.
Yep.
So even though you think you and the family is cool, and you know, when people die, it's a totally different thing. I do think
Yo,
something
people get
needs to be in
really
place.
funny when it comes to
Yes,
money.
Mhm.
I do think something would have to be in place, and I think if you guys decide not to take that step, that you need to have something written down, written in paper or in the will or
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I was
something.
gonna
Like,
say. That's
but
what
here's
wills
Something
are
in
but
place.
for.
here's the thing
You
though.
gotta have that conversation.
Here's the thing though. Like, how do you, if you're not married, if you're not engaged, right?
Mhm.
Like, how do you broach that? How do you broach that? Like, it's like, okay, so we're together and we're committed, and then you're like, yeah, so you may not necessarily want to get married, but like,
I think it
what are
depends
you
on the
gonna do? Am
person
I in your will?
and
Like,
how long you've been with that person.
Mhm.
I,
That's
because some
and
people
then
don't
if
even
you
like
have that,
talking about. Some people don't even like talking about death,
that
right?
is true. It
And they
is an
don't,
uncomfortable
when you're
situation.
like 35, 40, you know what I mean? Some people, they're just doing their thing and they're enjoying their relationship, and they may not necessarily they may not necessarily want to talk about death.
You know
mhm.
what? It is kind of like a taboo subject, but I think we do need to change that narrative, because you know the way life is and the way life is going, like,
Yo,
unfortunately, like, it doesn't, like, a lot of people, you're not living until you're 80.
Yep.
You can walk outside today and, God forbid, something can happen to you. So I think it's important once you reach adulthood. It's a tough it's a tough pill to swallow, but I think once you reach adulthood, we got to kind of remove that sort of taboo um narrative surrounding death, and kind of have these open conversations. And even for myself, I'm going to be 28 in a few weeks. And you just never know. Over the last, I'd
Mhm.
say, 5 years, while I've been in university, and um dang, I've been out of university for quite some time. But
It's
and
like
even after university, there's people, in my age group, who I went to high school with, who died from all different sorts of things. You hear all these stories, and you're like, that could be me, that could have been me. So I think it's important to have these conversations because you just never know. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, too, you want to make sure that your family is put in a decent position,
Position,
you
yeah.
Of
know,
course.
Because
for your untimely death,
but
you know,
there I
life
think that
insurance and stuff like that.
like what we see though at certain ages, like let's say they've already been married, they've already done that, and
Right.
so and they're set in their ways, but they're together, right?
Yeah.
And like they might be maintaining their own home, they're together,
Right.
but like when it comes to like anything that, then I think like if you don't live together, you're screwed. Like the after 2 years, the legislature protects them. That's if they're, of course, if they live together. I think that's the rule for common law, right?
Yeah.
They have to be living together, sharing the addresses and things
I
like
think
that.
that still needs to be a conversation you and your person need to have. Whether you guys live together or not, or you guys decide, hey, if I die, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, it goes to my kids or whatever,
Yeah,
whatever.
big
Mhm.
You know,
conversations.
I still
Yeah.
think it's something that needs to be
And
discussed.
I think those conversations are the ones that really show you where people are at.
Where you're at.
Mhm.
Where that's what
Yeah.
shows you where you're at, because there you
Yeah.
cannot. I think you cannot make assumptions. You know, I've
Exactly.
heard
And
some
I feel like a lot
crazy.
of people do.
I've heard some
Mhm.
crazy stories. I've heard
Just
some
like Tanya
crazy
said,
stories where
she
people
says she
be with somebody for years,
sees it at
and
work all the time.
because it's not, we're talking death. But
Yeah.
imagine if you just been together in a living situation, and then it just is over. And then if it hasn't been handled in a specific way, you could have sewn in so much and walk away with. There's situations where you can like literally walk away with nothing,
Yeah.
Right.
as much as you've put in. So
Mhm.
I think that as much as marriage is,
Greg's killing me with these comments.
Greg loves to do that, right? But um, I think that the one of the things about marriage is it is for the most part, you're saying that we're serious.
Mhm.
You know, you're saying like, yo, like we're trying to die together, or like live out our lives together, and the work that what we do and we put in, this is for us and what we're building.
Right.
Not just the relationship, because again, we know that you could be committed without it, but in the developed world, let's say, where there are rules and there is money and there isn't estates, yeah, I think you should want to make sure each other are taken care of. Like, is that person, again, like you were saying, Kiki, is that person on your will? Is this person's name on your life insurance?
Right.
Do you have like, do they know what's up with your money? Are you each other's is it the guarantor, or even the I can't remember some of the other terms. Like if something happens, like they will carry out what you've said,
Right.
Right.
and like again, I've heard some stories, people get funny with money, and people coming out of the woodwork and leaving people out and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the meme was funny because of the, just the
The
name,
special
like,
friend.
the the loyal companion, like the German Shepherd. That was funny, but
Mhm.
just more than titles, it's like whatever you built, like how does that get protected?
Mhm.
So I think marriage has its place legally, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, so you say it still doesn't matter to you, Danny, and is that because like you're gonna make sure all that stuff is taken care of, or is it just because it's like I'll handle mine, you handle yours? Like, what's the deal?
Well, before I had kids, it was what is mine is mine, what is yours is yours. Now that I have kids, I've like before they were born, I had a will for them. So like they're set. Like they have like I don't even know if they still have it. There was the Gerber life insurance. So if anything happens to them or myself, they get money. And if I put in money, I think it's every week out of my account. And then since they're 18, and if they decide not to go to college, all the money that I put in that account goes automatically to them.
Nice.
So like they're set. So I'm still in that mindset. If I do get into another relationship and it does get that serious, title doesn't mean anything to me at this point.
Well,
Going back to Greg's comment / trolling. The poly households that are doing it, like, they don't leave that stuff to, like, those are the relationships they can't assume.
Exactly.
Like, if somebody's in there and if it's polygynous, let's say, like, if somebody's in and they're going to leave, there's rules and all kinds of stuff. Like, you can't like, there's the assumptions that we do in monogamous relationships, which again we shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is definitely not a luxury in those types of relationships. Like, if they're doing that, they're just really not doing it right, and they weren't really intentional about it, because someone may leave, and then that person should get their third or their fourth or whatever
Whatever it is.
Set something up in place for that, for the health of the rest of the people in the relationship. It's really interesting how intentional monogamous relationships should be, but we're not. But the other relationships have to be. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there should be that level of trust in monogamous relationships, but there has to be in those other types. Like, or they just absolutely don't work, right? It's interesting, really interesting stuff.
That's true.
Yeah. Interesting. So we are nearing our last 15 minutes. I came across, I'm going to try to remember this off the top of my head because my computer just decided to not work. But Javon McCormick is I don't know if anyone knows who he is. He's a author, he's a businessman, and he's a speaker as well. He he didn't come across, but he mentioned that during Black History Month on February 1st, all the companies and everyone's posting about Black history. They're giving little history lessons, little tidbits about certain people during Black history. And then when March 1st hits, it just all disappears. You don't really hear much about it anymore. It's not much in your face. And he's just said he's never liked Black History Month. It should be something that should be talked about like every other history in North America, and it's not. So he's not a big fan of it. I just wanted to get your guys' take on that.
I'm just trying to think.
Because I kind of side with him in a way, to a point.
Okay. Why do you think you side with him? And then
because it is in your face all February, and then as soon as March hits, it kind of just slowly dissipates. You kind of get, maybe on the weekend you'll get something, and then maybe in 2 weeks you'll get a little tidbit, and then
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here just a little bit. I do definitely think that Black History Month has its place, and you'll always get that commentary of, oh, Black History Month is all year round, or should be all year round, and stuff like that. My thing is, what if another race were to say, or let's say the Chinese,
right,
or Asians or something like that, they were to be like, hey, we don't have a particular month, and we're not seeing our culture, televised, for a month long, or, after Chinese New Year's, for example, they're saying we don't see like a lot of our content or things out there, and, internationally and stuff like that. So again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. But, I do feel like, other races or other cultures can come and say that as well. So I do think Black History Month is important it does obviously showcase, you know, um, the culture, our race and stuff like that. But that is the point. My thing
Yeah.
is, it's like, that is the point of Black History Month. And like, what are we going to do? We're just going to do it 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%. No, we are
Mhm.
supposed to go out and we are supposed to show off, our culture and our race and what makes us dope. Like, that is the point of having the month. Like, if we were just to be
Right.
like, hey, we have this month and it rolls around and then we just kind of like half-ass things and say, oh yeah, it's Black History Month, and we didn't put on as many events, or didn't share you know information and have conferences and different things like that, then people would also say, yo, it's Black History Month and we're not doing anything. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I just feel like, to me, it's like you can't really win, and you're losing it,
Right.
like, no, it's like no matter what you do, they'll still be saying you're not doing enough. But when you are doing a lot and you're showing out, they're also saying, why aren't we doing this all the time? To me, it's like
Mhm.
they have this month, or they've called this month Black History Month. So that, to me, that is the purpose of the month, is
Right.
to show those things and to show our successes and to share information,
Mhm.
and to try to help limit some of the biases and those things. I feel like that's what the month is about.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Look,
That's what I have to say towards it.
when we were off, or when we weren't, before we went live, you
Mhm.
know, we kind of discussed this a
Mhm.
little bit, and like, it for me, I'm kind of on the fence with it, right?
Right.
Right.
Um,
I think in some
but
ways a lot of people.
one of the things that
Yeah.
I was saying was that uh, we haven't really had this level of representation and attention to our issues like we've had in the last couple of years. So I could, while maybe not every single company is going to be, sending out their Black History Month message other than February, but we can't really complain that they are acknowledging it, as
Mhm.
shallow or as shallow as their attempts may be. Um, but I think there's a reason why we've had Black History Month, because in the last few hundred years, who has been as hard done by as the black person? You know,
Mhm.
while these little things that they do are symbolic at best, it's, I'll kind of take it, you know. But at the same time, as Black people, I don't think our focus shouldn't be February. Our focus should be all the time.
Right.
What
Yeah.
we're doing should be all the time, and I would say that it kind of is. Um, um, what are we gonna do, right? We have, like, internally, we have to do our work. This is the time when
Mhm.
all the businesses want to do it, and then everybody
Yeah.
has a little bit of a focus.
Mhm.
Fine, but and we are doing, a lot of us are doing the work.
Mhm.
There's organization, there's groups there, that are working for the advancements of Black men and Black women and Black children,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and they may not be getting the clout that they deserve from March to January, and even if there's silent people working silently that you may not even see.
Right.
Mhm.
So we have to acknowledge that there is work that is being done, but
Yeah.
that work is aimed at our community, and so we can't expect the media to care, really,
Right.
especially in a place like
That's true. That's true.
Edmonton,
Yeah.
some of those other months. But we can say that in the last 2 years, they've cared more than they ever have.
Right.
So,
T-
but guess what? I don't know when that's going to end. So
so the
we
thing is,
have to be
to,
diligent in keeping with the work that's being done.
you know what, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there. the key word is diligent. And I think some people, I feel like people who typically say Black History Month, or they don't like it, or why isn't it all year and stuff like that, I think when they think about that, or they state those things, they're thinking of it with the perspective of the media should be, putting out, Black awareness year round and stuff like that, and in the schools. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't, especially in the education system.
Yeah.
But I do think that our community itself does need to take some ownership. Like Tim says, there's always people doing that behind the scenes work who are part of different groups and stuff like that. But the vast majority of us, there's a lot of people who don't. Black History Month comes, they'll go to the events, or they'll bug it up, or they'll put a filter on, their profile picture, whatever. And it's almost like Black people sometimes forget Black people after Black History Month. So I think some people, sometimes we have to kind of take a look at ourselves and say, you know what, like the vast majority of us, what more can we be doing in our communities? And when I say that, I'm not even talking about from an awareness standpoint. I'm not talking about going to other races and saying like, hey, this is what you need to understand about our struggle. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like internally what we can be doing, like supporting like businesses and stuff like that. Because, as Black people, and we know that these issues exist, they'll go and they'll spend, mad money on like a Gucci purse or this and this and this, and putting money into the white man's hand or whoever, but then you have like, your friend over here who's like starting up a business, and you won't watch them twice. You won't give them a little $50 to jumpstart their business or whatever. So some of the issues are a little bit more deep rooted. And I think what we need to do, as Black peoples is, once February is over and the spotlight isn't necessarily on us to that extent, like, okay, we had our time, we're out in the media, but what can we do, like inside our communities, like.
But I think that too, like Black history is our life history. And every day.
Yeah.
Right.
It is. And if we're going to do anything that's going to uplift us collectively, it's going to start with the Black family. It's going to start with the uplifting of right in our homes. Do you know what I mean? And like, I find it kind of funny though. Like we expect a lot of everybody else, but it's like, well, you know what I mean? Like we hear about the Ukraine, we hear about Russia, and like we know about them, but like I bet that the standard Canadian, we know just as much about the Ukraine as they know about, St. Kitts or Grenada or even Trinidad. Do you know what I mean? And we kind of expect it's like, well, we're teaching them all their history, but like, well, if we saw something about them, like it's like, what do I care? Do you know what I mean? But we want that care. We want that attention for ourselves. Like, I think it really should become more about us. I think that because the one thing that changes it is because there's a treatment that we have for them that doesn't get reciprocated. So when our stories get told, now they hopefully can understand us a little better, and then the stories humanize us instead of us just being these accessory people. So maybe that's the expectation in them listening to our stories and having Black History Month, because there is so much there's so much misinformation about our origins, and there's so much people that don't know anything about what has happened. So there is that. So I don't necessarily oppose the month, but I do see some people who think I do kind of get it. Where some people like, we what do we need it for?
Right.
But it's just that time where the stories.
Then if we didn't have it, they'd still say we don't have anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
that's right. So, because I think Black History Month shouldn't even really. Oh God, should Black History Month be for us, or should it be Josiah, or should it be for them and to educate them? You know
Right.
what I mean? I guess that's a question.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and then like Greg said here, like there's so many stories. And
Definitely.
then at times, like, you know, they don't necessarily want to hear some of the stories because those stories may be uncomfortable, so they don't want to hear them.
Yeah.
And that opens up its own.
Yeah, because I was just about to say
discussion.
there's a lot of stories that we learn about that we don't necessarily want to, you know, but we get taught them anyways.
Exactly.
When you
Again,
think
playing
about
devil's advocate.
Alberta and how much we don't know about the blackness that existed here for a
Right.
very, very, very long time. Like the fact that wasn't, you know, at school, they're going to talk about the civil rights movement. It's like, yo, you can literally talk about Alberta. You can literally talk about Edmonton. You literally talk about segregated pools and the repossessing land and just the denial of opportunities that people that were here over 100 years ago. Like, you got to talk about, this is our history. Those are your grandparents. Do you know what I mean? You're talking about you never seen racism. Those are your grandparents. Those are people who've been here for how long, and we were here for how long, and you know, it wasn't ghosts that were mistreating them. So, you know, you have a past to reconcile as well. And I'd really hope that some of there's changes in the curriculums and things. But I think we have to be the ones to push it. We can't expect them to do it.
Oh yeah,
we have to be interested in our history, and then we have to be pushing that. You know.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if they did in Edmonton, but in Mornville, my social teacher from grade 9 to grade 12 during February, once a week, would teach about something about Black history in Alberta.
That's cool.
And that's the only way I knew about anything in Alberta that ever existed. I don't know if that's a thing in Edmonton. I don't know if that happened in your social class.
No. Not for me. Not for me at all.
No, and you know, Greg just made an interesting comment. He said if I had kids, they would be going to high school in Jamaica. And you know what? I always say, because the plan was for me to finish high school in the Caribbean, which I didn't.
Right.
You know, I did a year or two, and then I moved back here. But my mom did say, you know, that's the best thing that she could have ever done. And in some ways I kind of agree with Greg, you know, because you know, it's interesting. A lot of the times when you look at the curriculum, like in the Caribbean or in Africa and stuff like that, a lot of the times they know a lot about a lot of different places. They know a lot about the Caribbean, they know a lot about Africa, and they also know about North America and Europe and Asia and those places.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's like, yes, you learn about the world wars and, you know, a few things with Europe and stuff like that. But then it's mostly just like North America. And the social studies curriculum here, at least when I was in school, I don't know, maybe it's changed a bit now. But when I was in junior high and high school, a lot of the times I'm sitting there like, you know, what about, you know, like you just don't learn about a lot of things. You don't really learn about much, to be honest, you know, like it's just very dry, watered down curriculum, in my opinion, you know, because at the age of 12 and 13, like the different things that you're learning, you know, you learn about, you know, different indigenous groups and, you know, like the Carib and the Arawaks and the Mayans and the pyramids, and then but you also learn about, you know, like the North Americas, and you learn about different places in Africa. Like they touch on so many different things, but in North America, for whatever reason, they don't do that. And you know, I think it's sad. I think it is sad for kids here.
I've heard a bunch of things about school in the islands. Like I heard, like I found like he's like my uncle, his kids, he moved the whole family back to Grenada.
Hmm.
and then they came back for college.
Right.
And all of them said like their first year of like university was a breeze because
Yeah.
of going to school in with that curriculum that is down there.
Right.
There was a breeze.
And
Mhm.
you
I
know
think
what?
that's really funny because a lot of the times people come here, if you come in grade school, they're trying to put you a year back.
Yeah.
Right. And see, that's that when I moved here for junior high, like in grade 8, they didn't know what to give me for schoolwork because they'd give me something and it's like, oh, I already learned this a year ago or you know, 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So a lot of times like I do my assignments and then, you know, I was a smart kid, like even back in the Caribbean, you know, like honor student, stuff like that. So, but by the time I came here, you know, for the first like year and a half, like they didn't really know what to give me to do because some of the stuff was like I had already done that or like I'd finished my assignments right away and it was like they're kind of twiddling my thumbs. So I can kind of identify with that, Tim. You know, when you said like your cousins and stuff came here for university and it's like, yeah, we've already covered a lot of the stuff that they're teaching now. So yeah, Greg said high school in Jamaica's work. When I moved to Toronto for college, I was laughing. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Tanya said we have to prepare the kids for a world that North America dominates. Here they don't need us.
Deep.
Yep. Very deep. Very deep. But yeah, honestly, I think it is unfortunate, especially in terms of social studies and history. I think the curriculum here is lacking quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then people, you know, travel to different places and stuff, and they're just like, I had no idea. And then in a way, I guess when you kind of have that perspective, not that I agree with it, but then you kind of understand why sometimes you may get the kind of questions that you do. Like sometimes it's not necessarily their fault. It's just ignorance. They were never exposed to that. They were never taught certain things. We're obviously taught certain things because it's our culture. You know, whether you grew up here your entire life or not, you know, like it's our culture. So we know about certain things. And then when we go out into the world, people ask you all these, sometimes we think it's ridiculous questions, but then you know, when you kind of take a step back and you think they're never taught this stuff, you know, no one's talking about this stuff to them. They're only learning about, you know, their histories and their cultures and stuff like that. So
you know, at my age, I really wish that when I was younger, I spent more time, like actual time in the islands, either Grenada or Trinidad, like just being in the culture and just being around people that look like me. I think that would really, I think that just changes the perspective. Because when anytime I would go down there, like you literally, you come back different. At least for me, like you see so many people just comfortable in their skin, and I've relatively always been comfortable in my skin, but it's just being around your people. Like literally, even when I go to Toronto or you go to like New York, and there's just I just sit back and I'm like, wow, because you're just used to this place, you know. Right. Wow, I have so much appreciation for Edmonton, but man, you know, me and my kids' mom, like we talked about the kids going out there, like spending a decent amount of time down there. I don't, you know, things happen. You don't know if it will happen, but I think that would be really cool. Like you need to just get out there and just see your people and learn and just sit down. Man, just sitting down with you know, sitting down with an old aunt or an old grandpa or like a old uncle, and they tell you about where you came from. Like, you know, those are the things that I kind of wish were important when I was growing up. And I did a lot of traveling, but it wasn't really like that, you know. So parents have to lead it, you know.
I believe
parents
that.
have to lead that.
Yeah.
You know, and
We would just
a lot of the comments I'm seeing is really right when you listen to people that grew up down there, and
yeah.
because I always wonder like what's going on, like because you don't know, right?
Mhm.
But again, limited opportunity. When I think about it, it's like how if you're from Stony Plain, you're gonna most people are gonna leave and they're gonna end up in Edmonton, or they're what I mean. They're gonna leave. There's limited opportunities there because it's small and it's
Mhm.
detached-ish. So you find yourself in Edmonton, and you ingratiate yourself into that life, but you don't want to forget where you want to forget where you came from. Like I literally just started learning a little bit more about Grenadian culture in maybe '09, but
Okay.
then some more like 2018, like just looking at it from a different lens and just really appreciating it. And like, man, I
Mhm.
miss so much because my parents really didn't give it to me. They gave me church culture. They didn't really give me
Mm.
like Grenadian culture, and that's something that like I think it would have really my development would have been a little bit different.
Yeah.
So
No, we had some awesome comments that just trickled in towards the end there,
Mhm.
which I agree with.
Yeah. Okay.
competition at the high school level. Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel like growing up in the Caribbean, there's competition from the moment you start going to school, whether it's academics or sports.
Sports, yeah.
That sort of mentality and that discipline is just kind of like instilled in you.
but like here's the thing I think is so cool. Like just I've been finding out recently like how like the whole scholarship thing and how many people you could be from one island and there's these opportunities to go to school in all these different islands and like going to or even just the travel like how at least for some, maybe not everybody, but like you've if you could be in Grenada but you've visited Guyana and you've have friends in Grenada were from you know St. Kitts or something like that. And
Mhm.
they just kind of the way that they hop around for work and all this, and I'm just like, I just didn't really even about think about that and like how
Mhm.
close everything is.
Right.
I never really thought about
The
that. I've
thing
been
is
finding out a lot
too,
about
though,
that lately, and I think that's
the,
so cool.
the thing is too, though, is that a lot of the times you get that sort of commentary that, oh yeah, third world country and yada yada yada. But a place like Saint Kitts Nevis that they have, I think, less than 70,000 people between
Mhm.
both islands. They have so many different scholarship programs. Like they have scholarship programs to go to Taiwan and Japan and like all these different places across the world. They have scholarship programs in Africa. Um, you know, and you come to North America and it's like, I don't
And you don't even want to leave.
I don't
It's like, oh my god, I'm going to Calgary. Oh my gosh.
well, yeah, you know what I mean? And then sometimes you don't like some of the opportunities and some of the connections that these small little islands have, you can't even get.
Yeah.
You can't even dream about getting here.
Here,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And my mom sometimes she always jokes around and says, like, hey, you need to go back home and go to school. Like go home and see what you can do and see, if you can get a scholarship or if you can, go to a different island and study and stuff like that. And so that's definitely something that I've thought about because it's true. It's true.
Mhm.
Like sometimes when you're here, like they kind of just have like a one track vision sometimes when you're here, but then these little islands, you get a lot more exposure, you
Hmm.
know. So yeah, it's interesting.
Mhm.
It's interesting.
Mhm.
And like Aisha said, exposure is huge.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yep,
Mhm.
yep, yep. But that's an interesting talk. I think we should touch on that another
Yeah,
time.
for sure. Well,
Now,
we heard.
one last thing. Like, I would think it's really cool for one of my kids to go to an HBCU. and I would really think it'd be cool, like St. George University in Grenada. I would be, it would be so cool for one of my kids to go there.
Mhm.
You know, just I don't know, I just think that's kind of, it's like support your own, learn from your own, and
Tanya, yes, I was waiting for Tanya's comment.
I would love for one of my kids to do that. You know,
Mhm.
And what's so cool, if you notice, like Deion Sanders is at a HBCU now. We all know Deion Sanders, like, and he's getting some of the top recruits in sports that would have been going to the Dukes and the UCLAs and these big schools that are now starting to go to HBCUs, and I just think that is amazing.
What's sad though is that it has to take a celebrity for them to look at that though.
Well, hey, however you catch the fish, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you know, like that's capitalism. That's North America. That's people.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Because these guys have like all world skills, and they're trying to go in the places that are going to get them. Because even though they're going to the HBCU is not North Carolina. It isn't. So they're, that is I wouldn't say it's a gamble, but that's showing you where these guys are at. Like, I was listening to this one podcast, how like some of these fathers with their kids are like they look at the coaches now as like surrogate fathers. When I send my kid out there and I'm not there, I want to trust that somebody knows my experiences and can teach my son and be molded. Like, he may not be a NBA pick or NFL pick or anything like that, but I want to know that there's people that know my experiences and help mold my son while I'm not there. And I'm like, oh, imagine, like, if there's more parents that are thinking like that. Do you know what I mean? What Tanya was saying about raising and teaching our kids to function in this society. Like, it's just like, just going to school, but we're trying to create leaders. We're trying to create people that are going to end cycles, and when you're going through things with that intentionality, like if 10% of students, 5% of students, parents are sending them to schools with that kind of intentionality, that changes our history. It really does. It really does.
Well, I think that's a good place to end since we are over our hour. If that's okay with you guys, we can continue this next week.
Sure.
Yep.
So, on that note, make sure you follow us on YouTube. All our podcasts are on there. Make sure you share it, like, comment, subscribe. And stay warm, because I know it's supposed to snow till Friday.
Oh, Lordy.
No.
Yeah.
I know.
Yep. Another wave.
Right? On that note.
Vicious cycle, man.
Yeah. On that note, have a great night. Enjoy your weekend, and see you guys next week.
Thank you for all the comments and for tuning in.
Yes. Have a good night, guys.
Take care.
Dad, in this game, I'm struggling to